serious about evangelizing. You're serious. I've had people tell me I hate evangelism, and that always just kind of boggled my mind. I was up in Ohio doing a seminar, and there was a lady that came from an area congregation, and her husband preaches at this other congregation. And she said, oh, I just love this, and I'm excited, and I've got people that I want to study with, and she's all ready to go. And she said, you know, my husband preaches at a congregation about a half hour from here. I said, well, I'd love to meet him. She goes, well, you won't get to because he won't come. I said, what do you mean? You can't get off work or what? She said, he hates evangelism. And I thought, he must not even know what the word is, because how do you stand in the pulpit and say, I hate saving souls. I hate proclaiming the gospel. I hate leading lost souls to Christ. I can't even fathom that in my mind. So then about 2 months later, I was in West Texas, and I was having a meeting with a group of elders, and I'm talking about the program and what we do when we come in for a seminar, and one of them stopped me and said, Keno, I'm going to tell you something. We do a lot of stuff in this congregation, and we do not have time to evangelize. Now, mind you, everything they did had to do with the congregation, right? Very inward focused. They had youth programs, they had teen programs, they had programs for married people, programs for divorced people, programs for addicted people, programs for the silver wings. Some of you know that when you get that gray right here on the side, silver wings. They had programs for the, what in Branson they call them Q-tips, when you have white hair and white tennis shoes. So the golden oldies you might hear them as. So they have programs for everything, and what we've learned in the church is that we're very good at keeping the aquarium, but we're not very good at fishing for men. We're not doing what we're supposed to. We're celebrating ourselves. Now we've got to get outside the building and start reaching others. Turn with me in your psalm book, if you would, to number 756. Last night we talked about 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 15, and singing with understanding. Let's sing number 756. I want you to listen to the words of this song, and if you don't intend to do them, then I probably wouldn't sing it. It's number 756. Let's look at it. I want to be a worker for the Lord. I want to love and trust His holy word. I want to sing and pray and be busy every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the Lord. How many of you mean that when you sing it? I know you mean it because you're here. You wouldn't be here tonight if you didn't mean it. There's so many people that fill the pews all over they sing the song, I'm going to work till Jesus comes. We'll work till Jesus comes. Well, work does not mean showing up on Sunday morning, partaking of the 5 acts of worship, and going back to the house. That's not work. That's a very small part of what we do as Christians. Working is getting outside the walls of the building and evangelizing. So how's some other ways that we can get contacts? Let's talk about one of them now. What does Jesus say about door knocking? Look in your Bibles at Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. We need to follow the example that we see of the early day Christians. So in Matthew chapter 10, verse 16, of course, this is prior to the beginning of the New Testament church. Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says, Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Now, he's given us some really good advice here, and I would be inclined to follow this advice if we want to effectively knock doors. I used to hate door knocking. In fact, I tell you, for all the years I knocked doors, I never saw one time that I ever saw it work. And a few years ago, Brother Rob Whitaker was there. He was doing an advanced seminar with us. It was about 2 years after our first seminar. And he came and he was doing an advanced seminar the next day. The last day, he finished up on Friday. On Saturday night, he had to be in southern Oklahoma, about 3 hours south of us. I said, Rob, we're having Saturday morning a door knocking. Would you stay here and help us with it? He said, I will. And I said, but you're going to have to teach us how to do it, because I'm just being quite frank with you, Rob. I don't think it works. We're going to do it because it's the National Door Knocking Day, and we want to be a part of that, but I don't think it works. And so Rob said, well, what do you do when you knock doors, Keno? I said, I'll show you. Hi, I'm Keno, and I go to the Church of Christ down here, and we'd love to invite you to come worship with us, or if you'd like to have a Bible study, we'd love to have a Bible study with you. That never worked. The worst thing you can do if you want a Bible study is ask somebody for a Bible study. They're not going to do it. They don't know you. They have no idea who you are. You've never built a relationship. You've never shown any compassion to them. You've never been, you don't know this person from any other person in the world. And they're not going to have a Bible study. It's so rare that that would happen. There might be occasional times when you go up and somebody invites you in to do a Bible study. And if they do, then by all means, go have it. But your mission when you go to someone's house knocking doors is not to have a Bible study. Let me say that again. You go knock on someone's door, you are not wanting a Bible study when you knock on their door. That's not what you're there for. You're there for one thing, and that's their contact information. Because we got to prospect them before we have a Bible study. So he's telling us, he's saying, you're going out and you don't know what you're going to deal with. You don't know how many people are going to open the door and be welcoming to you. Or they're going to slam the door in your face and tell you, get off my porch, get out of my yard. He says, be as wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. Jamie and I were up there with the Halls at Alkira Road Church of Christ in Grove City, Ohio recently. And we went out and knocked doors, and this one lady showed up the door, and just like this, she goes, I can't talk to you. Bam, and slammed the door. Well, I just said, okay, thank you, ma'am. And we just walked off. I'm not going to go out there and kick her dog and let the air out of her tires and throw a golf ball through her window because she didn't want to talk to me. I'm going to be as harmless as a dove. Remember, when we go out, we represent Christians in general. We represent the church of Christ, and we represent Christ himself. And so we're going to be as harmless as doves. If they open the door and they stand there and they call you everything that you ever, just ripping you apart, you just smile and tell them to have a good day and go on. It's nothing against you. They don't know you. How can they have something against you? They've never met you before. What they have something against is Jesus, and he'll take care of that. So just go and be as harmless as a dove when you leave. So we need to have a strategy when we knock doors. We tell people, let's go knock doors, and we don't have any training for it. We don't have a strategy. You're asking somebody that's never picked up a football to throw a Hail Mary from the 60-yard line, and they're not trained to do it. If you're going to knock doors, you need to be trained to knock doors. You need to know exactly what you're doing when you show up. You need to know what your mission is. You need to know what information you're trying to get. And you need to have a strategy for how to do that. Jesus provided a method for knocking doors. Look with me at Mark chapter 6, verse 7. Mark chapter 6, verse 7. You know, am I going to go knock the door by myself? No, I'm not going to do that. Am I going to go knock the door with 27 other people? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what Jesus did. I'm going to follow the example that Jesus set. So in Mark chapter 6, verse 7, he called unto him the 12, and began to send them forth 2 by 2. So when we do our American mission campaigns, we go 2. We might have a third person, that's okay. But we're not going up there stacked 15 deep when we go to their door. They're not going to feel like they're getting invaded by an army. We're going to go up just a couple of people. I'm never going by myself. Men, listen to me. Don't go knock doors by yourself because you don't know if there's a single woman on the other side of that door, and you don't want to put yourself in a position that you don't want to be in. So don't ever go 2 men to knock doors. Don't ever go 1 man by himself if you can keep from it. Ideally, you would take your wife, or you would take another sister in the congregation. Or if there's not a woman available, then I would take a child. But don't go by yourself, men. And women, I wouldn't suggest you go by yourselves either. Because again, you don't know what's on the other side of that door. You don't know if they're a sexual predator. You don't know anything about them. So I would just try to go a man and a woman. Or if you have to go 2 men, I would take a child with me. But I would never go by myself. He always sent them forth 2 by 2. Now, we have sometimes gone out and knocked doors with 3 of us. In fact, here a while back, Jamie and I and Nicole Whitaker, she was on our team, so we went out and knocked doors, the 3 of us. But that's all. I'm not taking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people to go knock someone's door. I'm going to go 2 by 2 if possible, just like what he told them to do. We found that it works very, very effectively, and we have the best results with that. So he's providing them this method. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 14, where no counsel is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. So we want to train you to go knock doors. If we're going to send you out, we're going to make sure that you have the proper training and the proper understanding of how to do it. I would suggest to you this, and I know not everybody can do this, but I want to throw it out and let you know about it. If you ever have an opportunity to go out and work for a week in an American mission campaign, I would highly suggest you do it. It's very educational. You'll learn a lot, and knocking doors will become one of your favorite things to do. We went up there knocking doors in Alkira Road. They've had 13 baptisms, Rob was telling me the other day. 13 baptisms they've had. since we were there in, when did we go, in June, I think it was? Yeah, 13 baptisms they've had since we were there. They're baptizing like crazy. It was a wonderful experience for us. Halls will tell you the same thing. It's a wonderful experience. The next one's going to be in Roanoke, Texas next June. If you have the opportunity to go, you'll see what happens. You have 100, sometimes 150 Christians from around the United States all converge on a congregation, and we spend a week with that congregation, knocking doors, filling out compassion cards, evangelizing in that community. It's a wonderful time, and I would recommend you try it if you ever have the opportunity. We want to make sure you have the right training to be able to do what it is you're trying to do. So he gave them a method. He also gave them a message. Going back to Matthew chapter 10, verse 7. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So we're trying to teach them about the church of Christ. We're trying to teach them about what lies on the other side of this life for a Christian person. We want the very best for we're concerned about their soul, so we got to build a relationship with them. It's not going to happen when you're knocking their door. It's very rare. Now, I would be prepared. I would take some Bible studies with me on the off chance that somebody says, you know what, you're right. I need a Bible study. Would you come in and study with me? Okay, well, yeah, I'm going to have some. I'm going to do that. But I'm not going to go ask them for a Bible study. So we use compassion cards as one of the ways of reaching out to these people we're visiting, right? So we go knock on their door and we visit with them, and I'll teach you a number of different things that you can use. But one of them is compassion cards. So we go up and knock on the door. Hey, I'm Keno, and this is my wife Jamie, and we're Christians in the area. And our church is a card sending church. We like to send cards to encourage people, send cards to just to edify and build people up. Do you know somebody that we could send a card to? Maybe somebody that's struggling, somebody that could use some encouragement, just a card saying we love you and we care about you. Do you know anybody, maybe a friend or a neighbor or a coworker or maybe somebody in your house that could benefit from a card like that? And they'll tell you, probably about 30% of the time, 30 to 35% of the time, they'll tell you, yeah, I do know somebody. I do know somebody. In fact, my neighbor right down the road down here just lost his father. 3 houses down on the right side of the road, he just lost his father. I know he could use some encouragement. What do you know what his name is? Yeah, his name's John Doe. Okay, well, I can walk down there and look at the mailbox and figure out what his address is, right? So now I have his information. I can bring it back. I can turn that contact card in. We put that information down on the prospect list, and then we're going to write out compassion cards. And we're going to mail as many compassion cards to them as we can, and then we're going to go do follow-up visits when that's over, and we're going to start building a relationship with that person. So compassion cards is a great way when you're door knocking. Here's the deal. You got to know what you're going to say when you get there, right? You got to have a plan. You don't want to show up on their porch, and you got every kind of ammunition you can think of, and they open the door, and you just sit there and stare at them and go, what was we got to, you got to have a plan. You need to be ready. When they open that door, be ready what you're going to say. Practice it. In fact, I would suggest that you get together in groups before you go knock the door, and you practice on each other. Yeah, somebody stand on the other side of the door of a classroom or something here at the building. You knock on the door, they open it, and you go through your speech. You go through what you're going to say, so it's very comfortable, and you're very familiar with that message. Compassion cards, of course, you know they work. House to house, heart to heart. Do y'all mail it? House to house, heart to heart. Occasionally. So house to house, heart to heart is very effective. It is not effective as a passive. We used to mail it out in Coweta, and we quit mailing it because we didn't see any benefits from it, right? No one came because of it, and so we quit mailing it. Then we learned that it's not designed to work like that. It's designed that you have to be active with. You have to follow up on it. Now I want to stop and say this. Columbus, Kansas, their first mailing went out 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Their first mailing just started. Just went through the seminar the 1st of August. Their first mailing went out last Sunday. They had 3 visitors that came because of House to House, Heart to Heart. All 3 of them said, will you mail me a magazine? And we decided we'd come see what it's about. 3 people. I've never even heard of that before. I've never heard of that after 10 mailings, much less after the first mailing. But they got 3 visitors from it, and they've got all 3 of them scheduled for a Bible study. And it's a little bit tiny congregation, about 20 people, somewhere around there. So we're going to go out and we're going to have a copy. I'm going to have a house-to-house, heart-to-heart with me. I'm going to knock on the door. They're going to answer the door. I'm going to say, hey, I'm Keno. This is my wife, Jamie, and we're with the Coe Street Church of Christ up there. And we mail this mailer out. Have you seen this mailer before? It's a house-to-house, heart-to-heart. Do you receive this mailer? And if they say, oh yeah, I've seen that mailer, we get that every month. Well, then I'm going to ask them about it. Well, do you enjoy getting it? Is there any certain things you would like to see in there, like a certain article over any particular topic that you would like? Maybe they want it. Maybe they have something. Maybe they like to see something about whatever, and they tell you a topic. If you'll let me know, I'll have Alan write an article on that, and in an upcoming issue they'll have that in there for them. Maybe there's tracts in there. We have a selection of tracts that they can say, well, I'd love to get some of these tracts, and we mail those tracts to you whenever you get your magazines. We mail you the tracts as well, and so now you can go back to the building, you can pick those tracts up for them, and you can come back and hand deliver them. Maybe they say, no, we don't get that. I haven't seen that before. Oh, it's just a really great magazine. Got some interesting topics in there. Great reading material. It's free. We don't want anything from you. Can we just mail it to you and get their name and address on a contact card and let's start mailing it to them? Because it's putting the Coe Street Church of Christ in front of them. If you haven't seen a house-to-house, heart-to-heart, it literally has your picture of your congregation, the name of the congregation, the worship times, the contact information, the website. Do you guys have a website? It's got the website information on there. I always tell congregations, if you don't have a website, if you mail them out, the mailer out, we will build you and maintain a website for you absolutely free. It's a free website, and we have graphic designers that maintain it, that update it, that everything. So that's an option for you if you mail it. But the house-to-house, heart-to-heart is a great tool to use when you're knocking doors, and it's a great way to start building those relationships. We used all these, didn't we, up in Ohio? Every day we had a different one. One day we used prayer. I love this one. To me, I think this is the most effective one out of every one that we do. I think this is the most effective thing you can do when you're knocking doors. Hi, I'm Keno, and this is my wife, Jamie. We're just Christians in there. I don't even tell them where we're from. We're just Christians in the area, and there's a lot of political division in the world right now in our country, and there's a lot of people dealing with inflation and dealing with different things that they're suffering and they're hurting. And we just want to come out today and pray for people. Do you know anybody? I'm not going to say, can I pray for you? That's too strong for them. I'm going to say, do you know somebody that we could pray for? Maybe a coworker or a neighbor or a family member, or maybe somebody in your house, somebody that could use prayer, and we could pray for them. See what happens. You'll be surprised. In fact, we were doing this the very first time when Rob was helping us, and our daughter and son-in-law, they went and knocked on a house, and we ended up in a Bible study with them. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that tomorrow night. But they came the next morning to thank the congregation. They said it was like the moment in their life when they needed somebody to knock on their door and pray with them. They said it was like the perfect timing. And Madison and Garrett knocked on their door, and they said that to them, and they said, yes, we need some prayer. And they stayed there and they prayed with them, and they got to build a relationship with them, and they left them a copy of House to House, Heart to Heart, and they had our worship times. And the next morning, they were sitting in our building. And about 4 weeks later, they are baptized members of the Church of Christ. We went through all the studies with them. So very, very effective. Prayer. People want you, even if they're not overly religious, there's still a lot of people that believe in prayer. And they know when they're hurting and they're suffering and they've gone through some kind of traumatic event in their life, they know that there's comfort in prayer. Pray for them. You know what we see with Paul whenever in the book of Acts, right before they crash on the island of Malta, there's no godly people on that boat outside of Paul and his traveling companions. There's no one else on that boat godly, but Paul prayed for them, and God said not a hair would be harmed on any of their heads. We often say, well, can we pray for somebody that's not a Christian? You better believe we can pray for them, because God may not hear their prayers. We know his prayers are close to those that work iniquity until they're ready to come and ask for forgiveness and do the things that are necessary. But he hears your prayers. And James tells us in James chapter 5, verse 16, that the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. We could pray for people that aren't Christians. We could pray for their eyes to be opened. We could pray for their veils to be lifted. We can pray for their hearts to be softened. I would pray for those people. And it's a very effective way of bringing people in. Community service. This is another one that we did up there, and it's a great one. Make up a little sheet that talks about things that you can do. Maybe it's mowing a yard. Maybe it's fixing some plumbing. Maybe it's looking at their car. They have mechanical issues. Maybe you have somebody in the congregation that's good at mechanical stuff. I wouldn't tell them, well, fix it. It might need a new motor. But I would just tell them, hey, we'd love to take a look at that for you and see if it's something that we can do. And maybe it's something very simple that you can do. Oftentimes it's a yard mowing. You know, look for somebody their grass is a little tall, or go to somebody that their grass isn't tall and say, do you know somebody that could benefit from community service? We're just, you know, we're with the Coe Street Church of Christ, and we're just trying to get to know our community and help out where we can help out, and just ask them if you can do those things. A lot of times, you know, we had several people yesterday raise their hands so they know people have cancer. A lot of times when people have cancer and they're on chemo and radiation, they can't be out in the sun. They can't go out and mow their yard because they can't be in the sun. Maybe the church here could take care of their yard until they finish their treatment. Maybe they could help them out until they're able to finish it. Maybe you have somebody that's had an elderly person's had hip surgery or something, and we could go pick up some groceries for them, or maybe we come over and help them clean their house or something. Just some kind of community service. All we're trying to do is show people that we care about them and that we have compassion upon them. He gave us a message. He says in Matthew chapter 10, verse 17, and as you go, preach saying the kingdom of heaven is hand. So we have compassion cards, we have house to house, heart to heart, we have prayer, we have community service, we have new movers. Do y'all do the new movers program here? How does it work? Is it effective? Tell me about it.
We just started 2 months ago, and we've already got 5 contacts.
There you go.
Already mailing compassion cards.
There you go. So here's something you got to remember. We send you this list of new movers, and we buy those leads, right? Just like an insurance agent would buy those leads. We buy those leads. So sometimes you make those leads, sometimes they may not be accurate. And sometimes you may show up at a house and they're not a new mover. And this happened to us at Alkira Road. Me and Jamie and what's the boy's name from Rome, Georgia? Glenn. Benji. Me and Jamie and Benji showed up at a house. Me and Benji got out of the car. Jamie stayed in the car. Me and Benji got out. There's a lady there. She got some kids playing outside. And I said, hi, ma'am. I said, I'm Keno, and this is Benji. We're with the Alkira Road Church of Christ. And I said, we understand you're new to the area. And I've got this basket, right? We understand you're new to the area. She goes, me? She said, I've lived in this house for 6 years. I said, you're not new? She said, me? And I said, are you new? And she said, no, I've lived in this house for 6 years. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Looks like we're 6 years late with your new mover gift. And I gave her the basket anyhow. And she laughed, and we started talking. It still served the same purpose. All we're trying to do is invite them to a meal or invite them, you know, we're just trying to do whatever we can do to get their contact information. And we were able to get hers that night. They're very excited about it. We did a spaghetti basket. We do those most places, spaghetti basket. I don't know why. This is a spaghetti eating nation. People love spaghetti. And it works, but we tried different baskets, and that's the one that's worked the best. Maybe people in your area, something else works better, and you can do that. But you want to give them something. So he provided them with materials. Look with me at Mark chapter 6, verses 8 and 9. Mark chapter 6, verses 8 and 9. And he commanded that they should take nothing for their journey save a staff, but be shod with sandals. Be prepared when you go to knock doors. You need to have some water. You know, if it's hot outside, you need to have a bottle of water with you. You need to have a notepad. You need to have some contact cards. If I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna be talking to them about house to house, heart to heart, I need to have some copies of house to house, heart to heart. If I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna ask for prayers or go ask for the information and send somebody a card, maybe I don't make contact with somebody that day. I need to have a door hanger to hang on their door. Or I need to have some kind of something that tells them about the church in the Coe Street Church of Christ. So I need to have those materials, but what I don't want to have is have a bazillion things in my hand. I don't want to be over-prepared. I just want to take just what I need. So I'm going to have a contact card. I'm going to have maybe an invitation card. Do you guys have the invitation cards? All right, it's got your information on it and everything. Those are perfect for that. I was talking to a congregation in, I don't know where. Somewhere I was at recently, and they have a door hanger that works like the invitation card. It's got all their information with a QR code, their website, and their meeting times, and they leave that door hanger. But just take something that has your information so that you can hang that on the door if they're not there. What you don't want to be is over-prepared. You don't want to show up with stacks and stacks of material and your wife's holding a box like this, you know, and you got 2 or 3 other people that are carrying supplies, and you got a whole case of water from the Costco, and you come up there looking like a mule train coming up to the front door. You don't want to do that. Just take just what you need and nothing more. If I'm not going out and talking about a certain thing, then maybe I'm not going to take those same materials. I'm going to take the materials I need for whatever I'm trying to accomplish that day. I always want to have contact cards with me. I always want to have a pen with me. I always want to have a bottle of water with me. Those are the things I gotta have, and I need something that I can leave at the door just in case they don't open the door. And then Jesus gave them a manner. He says, Matthew chapter 10, verse 12, when you come into a house, salute it. We live in an age of videos, right? Everybody's got Ring doorbells. Just know when you go to a house, as soon as you're even remotely close to that house, you're on video. And they're seeing what you're doing and they're hearing what you're saying. I took a young group of kids out knocking on doors for a vacation Bible school. And we went up to some Section 8 apartment housing. And we knock on the door and we're waiting. And this one teen, she goes, man, they must smoke like a freight train. There's cigarette butts all over this porch. Thank goodness they didn't have a Ring doorbell, right? I said, okay, meeting downstairs. So we go back down. She didn't answer the door. We went back down and we talked about what we say and what we don't say when we want to compliment their house, right? We want to say things. We want to salute their house. So we're going up to the house and I'm going to look around. Maybe they got a great flower bed. And as soon as they open the door, I'm going to say, what a beautiful flower bed. What kind of flowers are these? I'm going to start building a conversation with them. Or maybe I see a sticker on the back of the pickup that says United States Army veteran. I'm going to go up and say, hey, I saw your sticker. Were you in the Army? And yeah, I was in the Army. Well, I was too. And we're going to start talking and we're going to build a relationship, right? It's called story selling in the sales world. You're trying to connect with them within 90 seconds. You're trying to find something you can connect with them on. If I go up there and I hear a dog in there barking his little head off when we're waiting at the door, as soon as they open the door, I'm going to say, well, it sounds like you got Cujo in there. What kind of dog do you have? And I'm going to start complimenting their dog and talking about how we have a dog and we're going to share dog stories and we're going to talk. I am not a cat fan. Listen, I don't hold it against you if you're a cat fan. I'm glad my son-in-law, I don't know why he's a cat fan, but they have a cat. But I'm not a cat fan. But if I go knock on a door and they got a cat sticker on their front door, so they open the door, I'm going to say, oh, you have a cat? My son-in-law has a cat. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, I don't know why he has a cat, but I'm going to tell them, he has a cat. What kind of cat do you have? And I'm going to start talking cats. And then I'm going to look at my wife and say, show them a picture of Jerry. And she's going to pull out a picture because she too likes cats. And she's going to show them a picture of our daughter and son-in-law's cat. And I'm going to start having a conversation with them. We went to a lot of doors. I don't know about you, Tim. We went to a lot of doors in Grove City that had flags hanging out. A lot of people had flags hanging off their porch. Hey, I love your flag. That's amazing. We need more patriotic people in our nation. I love the fact you guys are displaying your flags up down the street. That tells me you love our country. Well, if you say that, I guarantee you got it in with them. Because if they're patriotic and they know you're patriotic, they're ready to be your friend. And so it's a way that we can, I'm just going to look for things that I can compliment. I'm going to look for things I can connect with. I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to hear their dog yapping and say, oh, another one of these, I hope that dumb dog don't come out here trying to bite my ankle or something. I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to say, boy, their car's a piece of junk. I'm surprised they didn't even get down the road in that thing. I'm not going to do those things. I'm going to compliment everything because I know that they're recording me and they're listening to me. And I'm just going to assume they are. And so I'm going to compliment everything I can about their house and use that as a way to build that relationship. We talked about last night, Acts chapter 2, verse 47. Praising God and having favor with all the people. Talking about the first century church, they had favor with the people. We want the people of Copper Hill, Tennessee to know about the Coe Street Church of Christ. We want them to know that you guys are a compassionate congregation. We want them to know that you love the people of Copper Hill, Tennessee. We want them to know that you would do anything to help them, that you're here to make their world a better place. And that's what we want to do. So assume they hear you. Assume they see you. Look for those things like pet toys. Maybe you see they have chalk all over the sidewalk where they've got a little one. Okay. Oh, or you see toys. Oh, you got a little one, and just start complimenting their kids or whatever it is. But you want to take that opportunity to build a connection with them. But here's the deal: you want to do it in 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes tops. You remember those saying, "Don't wear out your welcome." When I was a kid, I'd go over to a friend's house. My mom would say, I was walking out the door, "Don't wear out your welcome. Don't go over and stay longer than you should stay," right? And it's the same thing. These people, they have lives. They're trying to do things, and we don't want to go over there and spend 45 minutes with them. Now, that being said, sometimes you'll get somebody that likes to talk. Jamie and I knocked on a door at Grove City, Ohio during AMC. Dog starts barking, baby's crying. You can hear all kinds of ruckus, and we're standing there, and it just sounds like all kinds of crazy things are going on in this house. And we're just about ready to walk off because it had been a little bit, no one had opened the door, and all of a sudden the door opens. And this lady opens the door. She's very kind, and she got a baby under one arm, and she's trying to kick the dog back, and she got another dog, and it's just, you know, it's a chaotic scene going on. But she opened the door, and we started talking to her. In my mind, I'm thinking, we got to get in and get out, because she's got a lot of stuff going on. In fact, she told us, I'm sorry, my mother-in-law's sick in the back. I was trying to help her. It took me a minute to get to the door. But we started visiting with her, and she liked to talk. And so she kept the conversation going. Well, she's going to keep it going, and we're going to stand there and talk. We stood there for about 8 or 9 minutes and talked to her. And we were visiting with her, and during our visit, she said something that was very interesting. She said, I have been looking for a place to start worship. I've been looking for a church home. Really? Well, we got a little board back there at the church building, and it's called The Few. And we have it up at the front of the auditorium. And this is for contacts that are hot, smoking hot contacts. This is somebody that says, I've been wanting to have a Bible study, or I've been looking for a church home. Something very hot. We write their names and we put it on the Few board. I suggest every congregation have a board. Maybe you put it out there by your evangelism table, but it's for the few, the ones that are very, very hot contacts. And then you pray for those every time you come together as a congregation. Your members pray for them every single day at home when they're praying throughout the day. Constantly, everybody's praying for the few. She was one of the few. Her name was Angelia. Angelia was her name. So she was a few right off the bat. That told us that. I went straight back to the building, and I wrote her name down, and I put it on the few. The next day, we went back to her house because I was out. We had a community meal that Friday night, and I was out of the cards when we went the first time. So I took that card back over there the next day, Jamie and I did. We knocked on the door. She opened the door again. Angelia, we're sorry to bother you again. I know you got a lot going on, but we didn't have the opportunity yesterday to invite you. We're having a community meal this Friday. City Barbecue. Are you familiar with it? Oh, yeah, City Barbecue is delicious. We're going to have City Barbecue, and we want you to be our guest. We're not asking anything of you. We're not trying to get anything. All we want to do is just meet our community. And we'd love for you and your daughter to come and to spend the evening with us and have some barbecue. And she said, I'm going to come. We need to do it. I'm going to come. We're going to be there. We're talking to her, and we said, we asked her if she had a Bible, and no, she didn't have a Bible, didn't own a Bible. So guess what? The next day, we came back with a Bible. And I knocked on the door again, and Jamie was over at the laundromat. We're needing to wash some clothes because we had to go to New York after that. So she's at the laundromat, and I go over and I just knock on the door briefly. Hey, Angelia, I'm not going to keep you or bother you, but you mentioned yesterday you didn't have a Bible, and I just wanted to give you this Bible. It's from the Alkira Road Church of Christ, and I just wanted to give you a Bible so that you can have it. And she was super excited about it. Friday night, she showed up at the meeting and fit right in and loved it. Thursday night, she started a Bible study. The next week, she did lesson 2. The next week, she did lesson 3. She was baptized at the end of lesson 3. She texted Jamie and I about a week ago, wasn't it? She said, I cannot thank you guys enough. I'm thankful to the Lord that you guys knocked on my door that day. She said, I have found my church home, and I love it here. And I talked to Tony, one of their deacons there. He said she has not missed a service or a Bible class since the day that she came to that community meal. She's been at every single one of them. He said she absolutely is just fitting right in and just study. All because we just did this right here. We just went up and did exactly what we're talking about today. Jamie and I went to the laundromat that day. I dropped Jamie off. She got started. I went to Angelia's, took her the Bible. I come back. Jamie's already met 7 out of 10 people in the laundromat that she's handed them out invitations to the community meal. And she's already been engaged with them. Here's what's interesting about a laundromat. Those people are captive. They're not going home without their clothes. So you've got them at least till their clothes are done. It's a great way to meet contact. And Jamie had already met like 7 out of 10 of them by the time I got there. So I met the other 3 and I invited them. And then while Jamie's talking to all these other people, I go up to the desk and I'm just leaning on the desk talking to this lady who at first came across as a little bit cranky. I thought maybe, she's in her mid-70s. She's working, bless her heart, she was tired. She'd been working hard, she's like 75, 76 years old. She's working hard, and I thought, man, she's just worn out. I could just tell she's worn out. So I started talking to her, and we're visiting, and she asked me what we're doing. I said, we're in town for this American Mission campaign, and I work with a house-to-house, heart-to-heart. We train churches how to grow, how to evangelize, and we start talking, and we get into a conversation, and about an hour into it, she finally reached down and pulls her Bible out from under the counter. And we start going and we're talking, and I'm not doing a Bible study with her, but I'm just listening. And she's telling me all kinds of stuff. She's lost 2 of her kids have passed away. She has a daughter left. Her sons have both died, and one of them had OD'd, and one of them I can't remember what had happened, but died in a car wreck or a motorcycle wreck or something. And she just telling me she has a very traumatic life. She's been through a lot of stuff. And so we're visiting, and I said, Carol, we're having a community meal, and I handed her the deal. I said, we'd love for you to come. And we just get a chance to know you. And she said, I'm not coming to that. She said, I'm a Baptist. I've always been a Baptist, and I'm always going to be a Baptist. And she said, I'm not changing. I don't have any desire. I said, we're not asking you to change. We're not asking you to even worship with us. We just want you to come so we can get a chance to meet you. No, I can't do it. So we keep visiting. We go on for another hour we're visiting. And she's talking about all the people that come in. She tries to study with them. And I said, Carol, I bet you probably could talk to anybody about the gospel. She said, I sure try to. She said, the owner tells me I can't have my Bible up here, but I keep it right underneath here, and I'll talk to anybody that'll listen to about the Bible. I said, Carol, we've got a Bible study that I bet if you used it, you could lead a lot of people to Christ. I said, if you want to come to this community meal tonight, we could talk to you. I said, we'd want to go through the book with you so you know how to use it, but then you could use it to lead other people to Christ. She said, well, I might come. Where's it at? And I said, well, if I come, it'll just be for a few minutes. I can't stay. Okay, so we leave. We pull back in the parking lot that night for the meal, and the phone rings, and it's Carol. She said, where'd you say that place is at? And I said, it's the Al Cairo Church of Christ. She goes, oh, I'm not coming up there. They speak in tongues. I don't believe in that. I said, well, no, ma'am, I think you got some bad information on that. Well, she was thinking of the church that got a prophecy right down the street. So we got that corrected. We told her where it was. She came. I kid you not. She gets out of the car. She goes, I'm only staying for a few minutes. She was the last car to pull out, except for a few of us that were there. She was the last. Of all the visitors came, she was the very last one to leave. They said they got into a Bible study with her, and I didn't know what happened from there. I haven't been able to find out. So we're driving here the day before yesterday, and I get a text that says, Carol, Soap City. I think, what's Soap City? I didn't watch soap operas. I don't even know what that is. I said, who's Carol from Soap City? Jamie said, the woman from the laundromat at Grove City. I said, oh. I said, hey, Carol, we've been wondering how you're doing, because it just said hi. I said, we've been wondering how you're doing, and she said, I'm feeling better. I'm doing better, and she starts talking. I said, well, we're going to be back there in January, and we'd love to have dinner with you. She said, oh, I'm looking forward to it. So she's gotten through several of the Bible studies. She's going very slow, but she's going through the studies, and there's a very high likelihood that she can end up converting. All from just going out and knocking on doors, just going out and meeting people. That's what it's all about, is just going out and having conversations. So Jesus gave these people motivation in Matthew chapter 10, verse 13. He said, if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. We're trying to take something to people that they don't have. And they don't have any access to it outside of this book. There's people in this world that are struggling in more ways than you can even understand. You know, how many of you were raised in the church? Most of you. I was. I had a wonderful mom and dad that raised me in the church. My wife was not. But she's still, her parents are wonderful people, right? But there's people in this world that grow up in rotten households. And their parents aren't wonderful. Most of their homes are broken. They're getting passed around like a chess pawn from one side of the family to the other because their parents are trying to be involved in their dating life and everything else going on. They were raised up in abusive households. They were raised up in households that had no love. Our daughter is in medical school right now. She's in her second year of medical school. She's got a couple more years until she's a doctor. Yesterday, they went out to a Head Start program to do pre-screenings on these kids. And so she said she was working with a 3-year-old, and he came over and he said, can I give you a hug? And so she gave him a hug. And then they're talking and stuff, and so she's done, and she's waiting for the next group to come get him. He said, can I sit on your lap? And she set him up on her lap, and he just gave her a big hug. This kid, she said, you can tell this kid has probably never hardly had a hug. She said, you can just tell he's dirty. The house that he came, she said he was craving affection from an adult like she said she'd never seen before. Some of these kids grow up and you just feel sorry for them because of the life they have. And a lot of the adults that you talk to, they grew up in that type of house. And they don't know about the peace and the hope and the love that comes from a relationship with God. They don't know a peace that surpasses understanding. They don't know any peace at all, much less a peace that surpasses understanding. And that's what they're craving. That's what they're looking for. Romans 10:15, and how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. The world needs you to be evangelizing. The world around you needs you to be sharing with them a message of peace and a message of love. They need to know how they can receive what you've received. You live a good life. Maybe you struggle in some areas. Maybe you have financial struggles. Maybe sometimes you have marital struggles or whatever. But all in all, you have a peaceful life because you have a relationship with Christ. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 14, and whosoever shall not receive you nor hear your words when you depart out of that house or that city, shake the dust off your feet. So we know that Matthew chapter 7 says not everybody's going to want to hear the gospel. Almost everybody will hear it at some point in their life, but for most people it's not today. So there's going to be a large percentage of the doors you're going to knock on, and they're not going to want to hear it. They're not going to answer, or they're going to be maybe hateful or rude to you when you answer. Don't worry about it. Don't let that discourage you, because they did that same thing to Jesus. And he said, all you do is kick the dust off your feet and you go on to the next house. And you go to the next house and you go to the next house, and you'll come across that one person that's looking for what you have. And that makes all the sweat and tears that you put into it, that makes it worth it. We knocked a lot of doors. It was very hot. I think it was the hottest week of the summer at Grove City when we were there. Very hot out knocking doors. And when we heard that Angelia was baptized, I would have gone out and done that 100 days in a row for that one baptism, because it was worth it for her. It was worth it for that one baptism. Matthew chapter 10, verse 26, verse 28, verse 31, we see over and over. Fear them not. Don't worry about it. Some people say, I don't want to knock doors because people be rude. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I talked to an elder in a congregation one time, and I said that we had knocked doors and had pretty good success. He said, Keno, you're crazy. I said, well, why am I crazy? He said, you're trying to get somebody from your congregation shot and killed. I'm like, what? He said, well, I can tell you, if somebody knocks on my door, I answer it with a shotgun. Really? I watch the news every night, and I've never seen one case of a Jehovah's Witness being shot off the porch. It doesn't happen. No one's going to shoot you because you knocked on their door. They may say, leave me alone. They may not answer the door, but they're not going to shoot you. You're not going to get hurt knocking doors. He says, fear them not. Just go out and do what he's commissioned you to do. I want to show you some results from this. This is from the Granbury Street Church of Christ. We did an AMC there several years back, and I want you to look at these numbers. So on the left side, doors knocked. That's how many doors we knocked each day that we went out. And then the next column is people talked to. All right, so if you knock on 342 doors and 135 people open the door and talk to you, that's the number you're interested in. The ones that didn't answer the door, you can't do nothing about them. Maybe you put a door hanger. But that doesn't go into the equation because you didn't talk to nobody. So you take the 135 people you talked to, and then how many of those were you able to get contact information for? And that's what gives you your percentage of success. So door knocking generally will have a 25 to 30% success rate overall. That's not the most effective thing that you can do. You can have a much higher success rate at visitors, but it is successful. For me that thought that door knocking didn't work at all, I found out it does work, and it works very well. So Sunday, there was 342 doors knocked, 135 people we talked to, 40 cards we collected. That's a 30% success rate. If you went out and knocked doors and 30% of the time you could get contact information, would you not knock more doors? Of course you would knock more doors. If I could get 30% every time, 30%, that's 40 cards, 40 contacts that we got. So now you say, well, how can we get more contacts other than just our bookmarks? Right, here's a great way to get them. We mailed 182 cards that day, and the strategy that we used that day was cards. Hi, I'm with the Coley Street Church of Christ. We're a card-sending congregation. We're just looking to encourage people today. Do you know somebody that we can send a card to? That's all we did. And this is the percentages that we got. Monday, you see the same thing. That day, our strategy was prayer. So we're asking, is there somebody we can pray with? Tuesday, it was house to house, heart to heart. Wednesday, it was benevolence or community service. Look at Thursday. Look at the percentage on Thursday. 83%. What's my purpose when I'm knocking doors? What am I trying to get? Anybody? What am I trying to get when I knock doors? Contacts. I'm not trying to get a Bible story. All I'm trying to do is get a contact. You remember when I was talking about I gave him a a visitor's basket? And he's almost always going to give me his contact information. It's the same thing. When you go knock on someone's door and you give them a gift, they're almost always going to give you their information. And you see how it worked there. 83% of the doors that we got an answer at gave us their information. Why so high? Because I'm giving them a gift. And when you give somebody a gift, they're almost always going to give you that information. Then on Friday, we said, it says combo, we said you can use whatever you want to do. You go out, whichever one is your favorite one, cards, prayers, whatever your favorite one, you do that. So we knocked a total of 2,831 doors. We talked to 850 people. We had 228 contact cards collected. That's a 27% overall success rate. And we mailed cards, compassion cards, to 1,923 people. Brothers and sisters, the baptisms came in from that. And it does everywhere we do these AMCs at. There was 12 yards that were mowed. There was 89 visitors that came to the community mill. That's very high. We had 22 in Grove City. But we had 89 visitors that came to the mill, and 20 attended worship the following Sunday. Would you not love to see 20 people out, 20 visitors in here next Sunday? What would that do for the Coe Street congregation if you had 20 visitors came in here next Sunday? It would be amazing. You get these results from doing this. Let's look at another one. This is Collinsville, Illinois. Jason Wright's the preacher up there. Great guy. And you see the numbers are very similar. Look when you get to Thursday. Again, high percentage when it comes to the new mover baskets. There's 25 people that came that night to the community mill, and 7 of them visited the next Sunday morning. This is the Cary Street Church of Christ, North Carolina. Same thing. You see a high percentage rate on that, 70% on that new movers baskets. It's a very easy way to make contacts with people. And again, we had 1,535 compassion cards mailed. So don't let somebody tell you that door knocking is not effective. It may not have been effective in the past when you've done it, but if you'll use this strategy, you'll use the tools that we talked about, you will get contacts from door knocking. Remember, we need 600 contacts a year in a congregation this size. So you got bookmarks, you got door knocking, you got the new movers, and we'll talk about a few more of them tomorrow and Saturday. But there's plenty more ways. There should never, ever be a reason why you don't have a pool of 600 contacts. It should be very easy to do that. And I'm going to give you a lot more ways of accomplishing that. This is all we're going to talk about tonight. I appreciate your attendance tonight. I know you have a lot